Welcome to the live stream. Wow, there is a lot to discuss, and I know people probably think I'm only going to talk about the latest revelations with Donald Trump Jr. in the Trump-Russia fiasco, and I am going to talk about that, but I'm also going to talk about how the left is sort of devouring itself over Trump-Russia. It could not be more destructive, and it's a disappointment because the next election or two should be gimmies for Democrats, and particularly as an opportunity to move the Democratic Party to the left. But so far, between the left going at itself effectively over issues of SJWs and regressives and free speech, and in addition to that, the left attacking itself on the issue of Trump-Russia, there's a lot of wasted energy here that could be used to actually go against the administration that is in power right now. And I'm trying to report every day about what's going on legislatively at the federal level, but also at the state level. 3 to 4, 3, 4, or even 5 states have seen Republicans actually undo minimum wage increases, effectively reducing the minimum wage. There's so much to be dealing with right now. And unfortunately, a lot of the left is just attacking itself over how big of an issue they believe the Trump-Russia situation to be. Okay, so we're going to talk about all of that stuff. If this is your first live stream, I will tell you that, hey, yeah, the reason it's called a live stream is that it's live unless you're watching a rerun. So I'm live right now, Monday evening, July 10th, 6:32 p.m. Eastern Time, unless you're watching a replay, in which case I hope you'll watch the entire thing. Number 2, Super Chat is on. This is sort of the way to ask questions or make comments during the stream. You can use the dollar symbol at the bottom of the chat window. That will put up your comment or question for all to see. And then I will be able to deal with that question, address that question, and hopefully there will be productive and interesting questions. I don't know what else to tell you about that as far as that goes. I am going to get into this issue of what we learned today from Donald Trump Jr., but as far as super chats, all questions and comments are welcome. Number 3, any new members or new patrons who sign up or pledge during the live stream, you will get a live thank you from me. Membership is at davidpakman.com/membership. Patreon is at patreon.com/davidpakmanshow. Contributions, pledges, memberships at any level are welcome. Of course, I voted 17, gets you a 40% discount off of membership if you so please. And lastly, please don't troll the chat, okay? People are here actually trying to engage in political discussion, talk to each other, talk to me. Obvious trolling and hate is going to get you banned. Interestingly, we're only 3 minutes in and people have already been banned, and the moderators have been fully deputized and empowered by me to ban and time out users as they see fit. All right, we'll jump into more of that stuff a little bit later. So if you haven't been following the latest news about Donald Trump Jr., it broke over the weekend that after months and months of Donald Trump Jr., Donald Trump's son, one of Donald Trump's son, in addition to Eric Trump and of course the young Barron Trump, Donald Trump Jr. has been insisting since at minimum March of 2017, if not longer, that there have been no meetings with any Russians at all related to Donald Trump's presidential campaign. Over the weekend, the New York Times broke a story that actually Donald Trump Jr. participated in a meeting at Trump Tower specifically in June of 2016, about a year and about 13 months ago, effectively, and that meeting was called with the understanding that a Russian lawyer was going to be presenting Donald Trump Jr. as well as Jared Kushner and Paul Manafort, all of whom were at this meeting, previously undisclosed. Now we know about it. The whole point of the meeting was the lawyer had dirt on Hillary to be used against her for the benefit of Donald Trump Sr. during the campaign. Okay? What does Donald Trump Jr. say first about this meeting? Well, okay, my first position was there were no meetings. I admit I did meet with that lawyer, and yes, the meeting was at Trump Tower, and yes, it was on the date that the New York Times said it was on, but it wasn't to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. It was to talk about the adoption of Russian children. Unfortunately, in the time between the Saturday statement and the Sunday follow-up from the New York Times, more information and specifics about the pretext of this meeting were released. The New York Times went back to Donald Trump Jr., and at that time, he finally took his third position on the issue, which is, yes, fine, it's true, the meeting was called in order to give us dirt on Hillary Clinton, but we didn't actually get it, which may or may not be true, but doesn't matter. Once you admit that you knowingly held a meeting as a surrogate of the candidate, Donald Trump Sr., with a lawyer working with Russia, a Russian lawyer, a Russian agent, for lack of a better term, who you believed was going to give you dirt on Hillary Clinton for the benefit of your father who's running for president, it doesn't actually matter whether you got the dirt or didn't get the dirt. Donald Trump Jr. is sort of defending himself by saying, hey, fine, we had this meeting, and the meeting was because we were told we were getting dirt on Hillary Clinton to use against her in favor of my dad, but she didn't have the dirt. The lawyer didn't have the dirt. It's not a defense, folks. It's not a defense. It no longer matters once you've admitted that you went to the meeting knowing that you were expecting dirt on Hillary Clinton. It is amazing that this is the defense that we are hearing from Donald Trump Jr., and it's all starting to fall off the walls at this point, because now not only do Donald Trump Jr.'s most recent statements contradict his own prior statements, the statements from Trump's spokeswoman Hope Hicks saying there has been no communication with foreign entities, period, related to the campaign. If you go to a meeting because you were told that they've got dirt on Hillary, that's communication with a foreign entity related to the campaign, period. That was in November of 2016. Trump, in January, as president-elect, saying there has been no contact between Trump associates and Russian associates during the campaign. That wasn't true. Did Trump know, or was he kept out of the loop? Both are possible. Vice President Pence, in January of 2017, asked if there had been contact with Russians during the course of the campaign, saying, quote, of course not. This at this point is a level of either incompetence, lying, or both that we have not seen for a very, very, very long time. And these are, to quote Donald Trump, serious things, very, very serious things. And if you need any indication as to how serious this is, normally when something like this happens, if there's even the slightest possibility of denying that it took place, Donald Trump would say it's fake news, witch hunt, it's a smear job, it's all lies. Donald Trump didn't do that. Donald Trump issued a statement saying he was not aware of this meeting and he did not participate in this meeting. That is a significant change in tone and approach from the guy who, at any opportunity, even when it's completely unfounded, will accuse these reports from the Washington Post or the New York Times of just being completely fabricated witch hunts that are fake news. Immediately this time saying, didn't know about the meeting, didn't go to the meeting. That's a change. And I hate to tell you, the Trumpists are not going to like this. A week or two ago, I pointed out, and we've got a clip about this. You can check out the clip. I think it must be about 10 days old. The narrative on right-wing media has started to change about Trump-Russia collusion. It used to be no collusion. There just was not collusion. The new narrative, and we've seen Hannity do it, and we've seen who else was it? Steve Doocy, I believe, did it. A whole bunch of the Fox News trolls, as well as other right-wing media people. The new line is, if there was collusion, it wouldn't be illegal. Tell me what crime was committed if Donald Trump did collude with Russia. That is a drastic shift. It is a shift in tone, and it is a shift in the argument as well. And that we will see what tomorrow brings, because the last 24 hours, the last 6 hours have been incredibly informative. And, you know, did Trump know about this meeting? Did he not? At this point, it's hardly the primary issue. It's not really the most important issue at this time. This gets me to a pretty serious concern that I have, which is the left devouring itself over Trump-Russia. I'm going to go into this. In the meantime, I will remind you, The super chat is enabled. If you have questions or comments for me that you want me to either answer or just comments you want me to read, you can use the $ at the bottom of the chat window. That will get your question front and center in front of both me as well as our audience, and I will address all super chat questions and comments. Also, new members and patrons will get live thank yous during the stream. We've already got a few, but I don't want to interrupt what we're talking about now. I'm going to get into that a little later. Okay, so what's going on with the left? We've seen, as we've been continuing to explore possible collusion between Donald Trump and Russia, we've started to see the left fragment in a way that is both pointless and destructive, okay? You have those on the right who don't believe there's anything to look at when it comes to Trump-Russia because they're ideologically committed to the guy that they elected, okay? And as Donald Trump himself said, he could shoot people on Fifth Avenue and he wouldn't lose the support of many, many people. By all means, if he could do that, colluding with a foreign power that in 2012 was pointed out as our greatest adversary by the 2012 Republican nominee is not going to turn away many, many Trumpists. So I don't really care about what's going on the right. We expected that Republicans in the House and Senate were not going to turn on Trump until their own asses were on the line, which probably means Trump approval dropping to, lower 30s, high 20s potentially. I want to focus on what's going on the left. And there's a couple different reasons that people on the left are sort of in disagreement on Trump-Russia, and I want to go through a couple of those. But to let me put my view on the line first. I have zero ideological commitment to there having been collusion between Donald Trump and Russia. I believe that at this point there is so much smoke that there can be no other explanation but fire to some degree. There has been too much lying from countless Trump associates about meetings with Russian officials. There have now been admissions by Donald Trump Jr. and others of attempts to collude. If you attempt to collude, it doesn't matter whether you succeed at colluding. In addition to this, we have seen we're not hearing about, the Chilean ambassador having had a meeting with Jared Kushner and it having gone undisclosed. Paul Manafort didn't fail to disclose that he was working on behalf of, Equatorial Guinea. Pick your country, right? It's always Russia. We've got the intelligence community reports. We've got, this latest bombshell from Donald Trump Jr., I don't want to understate it. It is major, even though corporate media, corporate right-wing media is making it out to be absolutely nothing. So my view is, if there was no collusion, let's figure that out and move on. If there was collusion, let's figure that out, figure out what crimes may have been committed. Let's figure out in the cover-up what crimes may have been committed, because it's often the cover-up. But I just want to get to the end of this thing so we can move on, because I believe we're better served talking about issues. But it's a major story. This is arguably a bigger scandal than Watergate, we will see. So I'm not going to ignore the issue. So why do some on the left seem ideologically committed to there having been no collusion and Russia not being a story? There's a few different reasons. There are, number one, Bernie Sanders supporters who believe that a Russia collusion narrative contradicts the ideas that Bernie was screwed by the DNC, that Bernie might have defeated Donald Trump in the general election, that Hillary Clinton was not a good Democratic candidate, and that's wrong. None of those assertions are untrue if there was collusion with Russia. Bernie Sanders was screwed by the DNC. I covered it. I've talked about it endless times. There is no reason whatsoever that's saying there's a hell of a lot of smoke here and a lot of stuff to be concerned about with Russia. That doesn't mean Bernie wasn't screwed. Hillary Clinton. You might believe that Hillary Clinton was a terrible Democratic candidate. I believe that she was a very bad Democratic candidate. I voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary and ultimately voted for Hillary Clinton in the general election, but she is not who I would have chosen to see run. I don't believe that Hillary Clinton is any better of a candidate if Russia helped Donald Trump, right? Hillary Clinton is Hillary Clinton. Might she have won? Oh, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. The other issue that's taking place on the left is that there are those who believe that if Donald Trump did not win because of Russia, that there is no Russia collusion story. I've said many times, when you have 77,000 votes in 3 states that effectively give this election to Donald Trump, if Russia was at all successful, if they were 5% successful in helping Donald Trump, they might have swung the election to Donald Trump from Hillary Clinton. But I don't care about that anymore. And the reason I don't care about it is that if there was collusion or attempts to collude, whether or not Russian involvement swung the election actually doesn't matter anymore, because the validity of the election is questionable anyway. And number 2, it doesn't change the reality about the candidates and their positions or who deserve to win or whatever. If there was collusion and if there was an attempt to cover up that collusion, the 77,000 vote swing in 3 states actually becomes secondary. And I think that there are so many people on the left who are so concerned that if Trump-Russia collusion is proven, it somehow damages what their beliefs are about Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or even Jill Stein, who's got her own series of problems with Russia, by the way, which we may deal with at some point. I believe that that is a horrible narrative that we are seeing by some on the left. I don't even need to name anybody. I don't know most of the people. People are tweeting me. I have no idea who they are. Some of them claim to have shows. I don't know who these people are. They're very, very angry with me because I want to follow the facts and the money. So that's one side, right? Those who believe that their story about Bernie or Hillary is jeopardized if Donald Trump colluded with Russia to any degree. There's another side of the left that believes the Trump-Russia situation is a distraction from, quote, real issues. I don't disagree with those people. I believe that, and I've said it before, Democrats, progressives, whoever, we can't focus solely on Trump-Russia for 2 reasons. Number 1, if there's nothing there, if you focused on that for the 2 years leading up to 2018, for the 4 years leading up to 2020, and there's nothing there, you've got nothing, right? The midterms come up, the presidential election comes up, you've got nothing if you've been relying just on Trump-Russia. But the other side of the coin is just as risky. Let's say Trump colluded with Russia. I mean, just hypothetically, imagine that it's determined Trump knew and was involved. Trump resigns or is impeached. I'm not saying this will happen, but just imagine, right? If that happens, Trump's now gone. You're no longer running against Trump. You can't talk about Trump-Russia because you got him out. You need more. You need more. So I actually agree with those on the left who are saying the left needs to focus on issues. That doesn't mean you can't walk and chew gum at the same time. And this is potentially one of the most, one of the biggest presidential Oval Office level scandals in 40, 50, 60 years in the United States. So you'd better be damn well sure I'm going to cover it, but I'm going to be covering the legislation that Republicans are passing at the federal level and trying to pass. I'm going to be covering what's happening at the state level, like, for example, today when I covered the minimum wage being lowered in multiple states by Republicans. We're going to be talking about all of that stuff, all right? Let's jump into the super chat and see what people have to say here. Lyle Frappier has sent a $5 Canadian super chat. Want to learn about North Korea? Talk to Michael Jordan. Gary Reed, Dennis Rodman confides in Michael Jordan and has told him some tings. Sending some love from Canada. That's interesting. I didn't know anything about the Michael Jordan angle with Dennis Rodman. Daryl Dudley has sent a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. Frank McWright has sent a $20 super chat. I will continue to challenge you on this, but I still think the Russia meddling did change the election without question. It's 6 months in and we're still talking about it, and always new developments. Still disagree. Listen, Frank, the reason I don't want to dig into saying definitively Russian meddling, did or didn't flip the election is because at this point there's so much more beyond that I actually don't think that needs to be proven to make a really serious case that collusion and collaboration took place. I think it's very hard to prove a negative. And that's why strategically, I don't know that it's the right approach. I'm not saying you're wrong. Phil Hershey has sent a $10 super chat. Kyle Waller has sent a $5 super chat. Sup, Pacman. Did you see that Rachel Maddow-ish about the forged documents she was sent? Thoughts? Yeah, so Rachel Maddow was apparently sent some forged documents that were purportedly leaks from, I don't know if it was the NSA or what. And her team figured out that these were fake documents meant to get her to report on something, which then, of course, it would have been leaked that these were fake and that she fell for it. And very astutely not falling for it was Rachel Maddow. Frank McWright sending another $20 super chat. I don't want you to confuse my concern with Russia meddling with validity of the election. Just saying the meddling changed a lot about how we feel about elections in general, future especially. Can't disagree with that, Frank, that's for sure. Kimberly Smoke has sent a $5 super chat. Do you feel that Don Jr. would have had a meeting with the Russians and Trump not be aware of it? How do you think this will affect his presidency? Yeah, I know. So Donald Trump Sr. has said he didn't know about the meeting that Donald Trump Jr. has now admitted to having had with a Russian lawyer who was promising damaging dirt on Hillary Clinton. I don't know. I don't know that we'll ever prove that he knew about it. But I don't know how likely is it. I mean, it was in Trump Tower. Does he really have no idea what his kid, as well as his son-in-law, as well as Paul Manafort were doing that day? It is hard to believe, but maybe he was being kept deliberately out of the loop. Maria Romero has sent a $5 super chat. Thank you. Jason Mann has sent a $10 super chat. Do you think Trump's perspective of his meeting with Putin happened as he said? If not, what or how do you think these things happened? Well, listen, I did a big story at the top of today's show about this, and I don't use this term seriously, but Trump was basically, I don't want to say that you keep repeating that Trump was cucked by Putin. But Trump was like, the uncomfortable, clueless kid around the kids 2 grades ahead of him when he was sitting next to Putin. Putin's in charge. Putin's playing Trump like a violin. And, Trump's perspective on most things he participates in does not seem particularly accurate. So I wouldn't be at all surprised that the story we got from Trump about the meeting. I mean, listen, we don't have to go with Trump's perspective because there's a readout of what took place during that meeting. Molly McHugh, who I'll be interviewing Thursday about this, she's an expert on this issue. She's got a great piece in Politico about the implications of the Trump meeting based on the readout. And it's bad. It is really, really bad. Andrew Jones sent a $5 super chat saying Kurt Schilling is cancer. All right, I have not much to say about that. Jacob Young sent a $5 super chat. Could you possibly do a segment on Sinclair Broadcast Group? Infiltration of local news is happening all around the U.S. and no one is talking about it. Yeah, I've talked about Sinclair in the past. It's been a while. They buy up tons of local stations. They consolidate them. They consolidate the message with national news so that local news all over the country starts to look the same and the same stories are being reported. It's bad, and you're right, Jacob. I should do a story about that. Okay, let me catch you up. I'm going to get to new member thank yous and Patreon thank yous. So just to catch you up, we are in the midst of what's called the YouTube advertiser boycott, also known to some as adpocalypse. This is a chart of our YouTube partner revenue, which is down 85% since the beginning of the year, okay? What you see here is the revenue chart that dropped at the number 2 to effectively nothing on March 31st. This is when, as a result of bogus mainstream corporate media articles about the YouTube advertiser algorithm, which matches ads to videos, there were some very alarmist reports saying YouTube can't control whether ads show up on racist videos, which of course isn't true. Advertisers threatened to pull out. YouTube panicked and flipped a switch that basically pulled all ads off of the David Pakman Show channel, and our ad revenue dropped to basically 0, crippling us, okay? As you can see by the number 3, this is into late April, early May. Revenue started to recover to about 1/3 of where it was prior to this implosion. And I was hoping that we were going in the right direction and that maybe by the end of August or September, we'd be back to where we were. As you can see by the number 4, That has not happened. Around June 25th, revenue fell off a cliff, and our YouTube channel is now earning about 15% of what it once was. I wish I could tell you that this was having no impact on us, but it's having an impact. We have a very long list of plans for 2017 and 2018 for the show. And unless we make this revenue up, I need to start thinking about, well, where can we cut? What can we do? What can't we do? How are our staffing levels going to be affected by this? And it's really unfortunate because we have an administration right now that would love to see dissenting and critical voices in media disappear. I would argue that there's no more important time for programs and channels like the David Pakman Show, which is distributed, by the way, every day on 200 radio and television stations across the country, non-commercial stations. We give them the show for free. So we are way more than just YouTube, although we are approaching 400,000 subscribers on YouTube. So we estimate that roughly 0.5 to 1% of our audience supports us financially right now. And that's okay. The program is meant to be free for everybody. We want people who can't afford to pay for individual shows. Those are the people I'm doing the show for, in addition to everybody who can afford the show and contributes. And we estimate that about 0.5 to 1% of the show currently contributes. We don't need everybody to contribute to make up for the lost revenue. We don't need 50% of the audience to contribute. We don't need 25% of the audience or even 20 or 15%. If we can grow our financial support base to just 3 to 5% of our audience, the problem that is incredibly evident from the chart of our YouTube revenue, that problem disappears overnight, okay? And along those lines, there's a couple of different things that people can do. You can get a membership at davidpakman.com/membership. You're talking about $6 a month or $60 for the year. Sounds too high? No problem. Use the coupon code IVoted17. With that coupon code, you get a 40% discount off of membership. You still get the bonus show, which we do every day for our members. You still get the commercial-free all-access pass. If you don't want to get involved in membership, no problem whatsoever. That's option number 2, Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Today, for the first time, we surpassed 1,700 patrons at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Even $1 a month at patreon.com/David Pakman Show helps. If just 5% of our YouTube subscribers contributed $1 a month, that means for every 20 of you, 19 do nothing, and 1 of you contributes $1 a month. We solve the YouTube adpocalypse crisis instantly, okay? And just as an FYI, we are now at 1,700 patrons. When we get to 2,000 patrons, I will be doing an entire show from our broadcast studio with my hair like this, which is a very, very scary sight, particularly to the kids in the audience. But I've committed to doing this because it seemed like there was some interest in that. And lastly, if you ever shop on Amazon.com, you can use the davidpakman.com/Amazon link. That'll just send you back to Amazon and send us a cut of everything you buy. Tomorrow is Amazon Prime Day, so remember, if you ever are shopping there, please type in davidpakman.com/Amazon. Now, along that line, I do want to say some thank yous, okay? Big thank you to Chris Dalzell, who has just pledged $2 a month at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Keep the pledges coming, and I will keep the thank yous going. Also, thank yous to new members who have signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Big thank you to Shani Moore, who has signed up using the coupon code IVoted17. Thanks to Karen Brown, who has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership, also using our coupon code. And thanks to Andrew Stead, who has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. So keep those coming. I will do, everybody who signs up or pledges during the stream will get a thank you, okay? No doubt about it. Let's jump back into the super chats because there's a lot of people here with comments and questions. Lyle Frappier has sent a $2 Canadian super chat asking any views on Sears or Sears Canada going bankrupt. You know, I have not actually seen anything in particular about that, but I am acutely aware of the retail industry. I worked actually at the now defunct Circuit City when I was in senior in high school and freshman in college, and it eventually went bankrupt. And I've talked about the ways in which I could observe when I was working there, how retail was on a significant downhill path. And what's fascinating about retail is you're starting to see, so like Amazon came in and started to really damage in-person bookstores. Amazon is now starting to develop in-person bookstores. Amazon is now moving into retail supermarkets, having purchased Whole Foods for $13.7 billion, launching this pilot grocery store, I believe, in Seattle. So retail is going to be interesting for the next 5 to 10 years. Frank McWright. Frank McWright is a Super Chat all-star, sending his third $20 Super Chat today. Aside from the Russia scandal, what about Donald Trump's businesses and profiting? On top of the hotels and resorts, a recent report says he threatened to sue USGA if they move the Women's Open. How is this legal? Yeah, this is why I am increasingly thinking that whether Russian hacking flipped the election is very, very interesting and relevant, but less important in the grand scheme of everything that's going on. And this is where I think there are people on the left getting confused. They're saying only, the hacking didn't flip the election. That's like 2% of the Trump-Russia scandal, all right? Discussions about my economics knowledge in the chat going on, people saying I don't know anything and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I've got undergraduate and graduate degrees in economics. But, you know, hey, you can learn stuff by reading books too, so maybe I don't know anything. Tina Howard, $5 Super Chat. Love your show. You mentioned in the past that you do appearances. Will you be coming to Maryland? Tina, there's nothing in the books right now for me to go to Maryland, but we are more actively working on getting speaking gigs booked for me. I used to do a lot of speaking gigs at conferences and colleges and that type of thing. And because of everything that's been going on with the show, moving the show to Boston last year and the new studio and Adpocalypse and just all this stuff, I've not really been doing too much of that. So we are more actively working on doing that. I am available for speaking engagements. I have not done bar mitzvahs yet, but I would consider it. But mostly I will do media conferences, media entities, whether it's newspapers or TV stations or whatever. I will speak at colleges. I've done high school graduation lectures. I've done college graduation lectures. It's flexible, so feel free to get in touch. Would love to come to Maryland soon. Kimmy Poo has sent a $5 Super Chat. Do you think Trump lies because he's trying to cause confusion or because he is incapable of the truth? I think there's two things going on. One is Trump thinks he's untouchable. He may be right about that. Given what he's already gotten away with. The cause confusion thing, I don't know. I mean, it's not a super sophisticated technique to lie or at least to take every position on issues to cause confusion. But it might be too sophisticated for Trump. I don't know. His intellectual prowess is definitely questionable. So I think it's maybe a combination of both, Kimmy. Jason Mann has sent a $5 Super Chat asking, is there a way to save a copy of this stream or get transcripts? Transcripts, I don't think so. But when the stream is over, the entire video is archived and uploaded to our YouTube channel like any other video. You can watch it anytime, fast forward, skip parts, go back to the beginning, and then you are able to save a copy, I guess, by using a YouTube video downloader. You can Google that, and there's a number of those available. Okay, let's jump back into some thank yous. As I mentioned, we are dealing with the YouTube adpocalypse. Our revenue has gone from 0.1 on this graph to 0.4 on this graph, which is only about 15% of where it was towards the beginning of the year. As a result, we are trying to encourage people to sign up for membership, which comes with great benefits. Just in the last few minutes, Kimberly Smoke has signed up for, if I may say, Kimberly, a level 2 yearly membership. Thank you very, very much. Monthly and yearly memberships are available. Memberships go from as little as $3.60 a month if you get a $6 a month membership and use the coupon code I voted 17, all the way up to $480 for the year. That's what we call the big boy. I think we've got, how many people are on the $480 a year membership? Probably a dozen. I'd say there's probably a dozen people who are at that top level, $480 for the year. And you know what? I appreciate people paying $3.60 a month as much as I do people paying $480 for the year, because every dollar counts. And along those lines, Dwayne McGuire has also signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Thank you. Thank you to all of you. Also, I mentioned earlier in the stream that we have crested the 1,700 patron mark at patreon.com/davidpakmanshow. This is Patreon. The way I think about Patreon is, you don't want to deal with membership. You don't have enough time to watch the bonus show or whatever. You just want to make up for some of that lost YouTube revenue. That's what Patreon is great for. You just go to patreon.com/davidpakmanshow and you can throw in $1 or $2, okay? Kyle Rome has pledged $2 a month at patreon.com/davidpakmanshow. Beck Snyder has made a $2 a month pledge, and Michael Flett just pledged $2 a month at patreon.com/davidpakmanshow. And a very special thank you to a user who has pledged $5 a month under the name I Made This Shit Just for David Pakman. $5 a month from user I Made This Shit Just for David Pakman. Thank you. Thank you. And with your support, I remain cautiously optimistic that we are going to be making up for the lost YouTube revenue. It is a whole thing, as I like to say, that is going on. I want to tell you that also tomorrow on the program, I am going to be talking about rumors that I have gone vegan that surfaced after an Instagram post that I recently made. I'm on Instagram at david.pakman. I will be talking about how within 12 hours of suggesting it, Donald Trump bailed on his Russian cybersecurity partnership. We will be talking about that. I'm also going to be talking about the unfortunate reality that 71% of global emissions come from 100 companies, okay? How many people live on the planet now? 7 billion? We're beyond 7, more than 7 billion people. How many companies are there? I don't know. 100 companies are responsible for 71% of all global emissions. And I'm also going to talk about how it makes no sense, and it's a moral crisis as I see it. We supposedly are too broke for universal health care, even though UMass economist Gerald Friedman from my alma mater, the economics department at UMass, has run the numbers, and we actually can afford universal health care no problem. Despite claiming not to have the money for universal health care, we've got over $400 billion to add to that F-35 program, the F-35 fighter jets. It's disgusting. It is absolutely vile and disgusting, and we're going to talk about all of it and more tomorrow. And on that note, I've got to go and start prepping for tomorrow's show. One more thank you to Leslie Noblet, who just signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Sign up, please. Get those dollar contributions in. Don't be tricked into thinking that because you can only contribute $1 a month, it's not worth contributing. If everybody who could contribute $1 did, we would end Adpocalypse's reign of terror on the David Pakman Show instantly. I'll talk to you tomorrow.